Welcome to the Making of Me podcast, where we explore the journey, mindsets, and practice that shape leaders and change maker. Today's guest is called Butch, a certified internal family system practitioner, a trauma-informed coach, co-founders of Brimstone Coaching Group, and co-author of Live Fully, Lead Authentically. Court help leaders break free from self-doubt, embrace authenticity, and transform exhaustion into clarity and wholeness using the E plus R equals to T framework. Encounter reflection equals to transformation. It's really a pleasure and honor to have you on the show, Court.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. So, Court, what were some of the moments or challenges that shape you into who you have become today?
Yeah, good question. Thanks for asking. I think one thing that I would say that's true about me is that I had a really strong sense of imposter syndrome for a long time. I had a really strong sense of not belonging, of not being capable enough, of not being smart enough or academic or not enough or whatever that looks like. And that hindered a lot of things for a long time. I think one of the things that helped me sort of work through some of that, like at a high level, I had a coach years ago, really, we call him a wise guide, that helped me along the way. He asked a question of me that stuck with me for a long time. And that question was, what part do you play in the situation that's in front of you? And that question of what part do I play, it really helped me sort of take agency and take some control and understand that I do play a part in all the situations I find myself in. And it really helped me kind of take a step forward into like being able to control how I show up in spaces.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, that was really amazing. What part do I play? Yeah, amazing. Also, Court, you have worked in manufacturing, our non-profits, our leadership, and now coaching. How did your earlier leadership experience shape your approach of helping leaders today?
Yeah, I took a weird approach to get to owning a coaching practice. Like, this is not a standard path for people that launch their own coaching practice. I started working in manufacturing at a really young age, had some really good opportunities to work with some really great people. I learned a lot. I mean, I worked as a production supervisor, supervising a team of employees for a little while. I also worked in recruiting. I was responsible for hiring labor workforce. That really shaped and formed me in ways that I'm grateful for. I just learned about leadership in ways that are really, I'm going to say practical, like really tangible. Working in a manufacturing environment, supervising people, hiring people, theory kind of goes out the window. Like, there's a lot of theory in books. There's a lot of theory in podcasts and all of that. Like, theory is great. And what I learned was theory only goes so far. So I learned a level of resilience. I learned a level of like, hey, theory takes me up to a certain point, but now I have to like listen to people and learn from people and watch people and talk to people and grow with people. So I think manufacturing really helped me do that. It really helped me sort of connect theory and practice in leadership. The nonprofit experience that I have, I pastored a church for nearly a decade, a couple different churches for nearly a decade. And what I learned there is volunteer leaders. So like in America, most churches are led by volunteers. Most churches have 1 or 2 staff members and then are led by, 5 to 10 volunteers. And leading volunteers is so much different than leading employees. It's so hard, not because anybody's good or bad, not because anybody's, not trying, but because, volunteers are just, there's a different motivation as to why people work and why people grow and why people transform. There's varying levels of buy-in with volunteers. It's so hard. And I don't pretend to be an expert, but what I learned about it is that it's different. So I think all of those things help me coach people in different places, right? If somebody comes to me and says, hey, I'm a supervisor of people, I have a team of people that I lead, I need to be able to know that that's different than my other client who is an executive director of a nonprofit organization. Those are different roles, different leaderships. And I'm just really grateful to have the background that allows me to be able to know that those are different and that those are different approaches.
Yeah, amazing. It's easier to lead employees being that volunteers are not being paid, and it's just self-will, and you have to kind of handle them. Yeah, with a whole lot of dynamics in place. Yeah. It's really a whole lot. So many
Yeah.
leaders fake it till till they make it, but still feel hollow or exhausted. What is the first step towards moving from survival to thriving in leadership?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think you're right. I think so many leaders just think it's normal to fake it till we make it. I think the first step is to actually name that that's what we're doing. I think the first step is to be able to courageously say, I'm just surviving. I'm treading water. I'm just barely keeping my head above water. We'll say in our coaching practice, we'll say that once we see something, we can't unsee it. And I think acknowledging that we're just surviving, I think is the key first step to be able to say, I'm tired,
Yeah,
or this is not a sustainable rhythm or pattern or energy output level, and to be able to name it honestly, courageously, with self-compassion, with no shame. I think then once we say it out loud or write it in a journal or whatever it is, now we see it, and now we get to decide what we're going to do about it. We get to decide whether we want to continue surviving or if we want to take some steps to create a different outcome.
amazing, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. So, can you explain how the framework you have at E plus R equals to T model and how it helps leaders transform challenges into growth?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So we call this our transformational equation. We think transformation takes years, right? I've been doing what I'm doing, like emotionally. I've been the person I am for decades. All of us have. So to transform and change takes a long time because we go a long time doing what we've always done. But we think that this equation, E plus R equals T, we think that this is the closest thing to I'm gonna use air quotes, a secret sauce to transformation as we can get. And here's what we mean by that. We think that you and I and every other human in the world have dozens of encounters every day. And we define an encounter like this. An encounter is a situation or a conversation in which we get shocked or surprised, or we lash out, or we withdraw, or we respond or react in ways that we don't understand, that we just automatically respond. So an encounter might be, if I'm a small business owner, I'm looking out my window looking at a small business. If I'm a retailer selling goods, a customer comes in and they're angry, that's an encounter because I will automatically respond to that.
Yeah.
So we think we have dozens of those every day, all of us. And so that's the E. R's reflect. We then believe that with those encounters, we have the chance to reflect on them and ask some intentional questions about them. Questions like, what happened? Who was involved? What did I feel? What was the solution? What happened? What did I actually do? And then maybe one of the best questions is, if I could do it again, would I do anything different? And we think that if we can do those sorts of reflections with our encounters, those two things together will lead to transformation. Again, because once we see something, we can't unsee it.
Yeah.
If I am a retailer selling goods and a customer comes in and they're angry at me and I lash out at them and I raise my voice or I defend myself, if that happens and I go back an hour later, 2 hours later, whatever, and reflect on that, if I see, I lashed out and I didn't like that and I would rather do it differently next time, once I see it, now I can do something about it. So we think that reflection piece is just so important and helps us take a first step to say, what's tomorrow going to look like? Or what's that next encounter going to look like differently from the last one?
Yeah, amazing. Encounter plus reflection equals to transformation. I think it's really lovely being that every transformation is owing to the fact that we'll come encounter with something, and encounter does not bet anything most times, except you actually have to sit down and look back, tapping into what lessons can I draw from this? What will I do differently if it happens again? And what models can I create out of this? Yeah, it's really amazing.
Yeah.
It just shows that most of our learning come from the fact that we encounter it, or more like either we like it or not, but we get to learn from it if we actually sit down and brood over
Yeah.
it. Yeah, it's really amazing.
Yeah.
So inner critic can hold leaders back. What practical step can someone take to reduce the influence of inner critic?
Yeah, that's a good question too. I would agree with you. I think most leaders have a pretty loud inner critic. I have a client who leads people. He asked me just the other day, he leaned in and looked at his Zoom camera, like we were talking via Zoom, and he leans in, he says, "How many people do you talk to have this same struggle?" And I said, everybody as an inner critic. So I think, I mean, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I think the first step is to be able to name it. Right. I think the first step is to be able to say to someone, I'm biased, but I would say to a coach, because I am a coach. I think the first step is being able to say, I, I have a loud inner critic and I'm pretty hard on myself. Or I have a loud inner critic voice and I don't think I belong. Maybe I'm tangenting just a little bit here, but we talk a lot about shame. Shame is this idea that we're not good enough. And shame, we have a saying that shame lives in the dark. And I think underneath every inner critic is a certain level of shame, of feeling like we don't measure up or we don't belong or we're not good enough. So I think when I pair those things together, being able to say out loud and put in the light, with another human or a journal or whatever, to be able to say, I just don't think I'm good enough. It does something in us to begin the process to say, is that true? Kindly and gently, to be able to say, is that true? Because I think oftentimes if we can get to the is that true question, if we can get there, and I think this is why a coach is so important, but if we can get there and ask the question, is this true? Do I really not belong? The answer is usually, no, I do belong. Oh, no, I am good enough. I am smart enough. I have earned this. I do know what I'm doing. So I think if we can get these things in the light and be honest about them, name them, and then work through that process of letting them be with some self-compassion, I think we can get to a place to start to think, is this true? Now, I don't think that goes away overnight. Many of us that have inner critics, we've been criticizing ourselves for decades. And what's true is that when we do that for decades, these things don't just go away overnight. Yeah. Right? They don't just disappear. But we do think what can be true is, tomorrow I can be a little less bound to my inner critic, even if it doesn't go away. We would say practice makes progress. So we would say it's probably not going to go away overnight, but man, we can make some progress on what our inner critic does to us.
Yeah, amazing. Naming it. And I think this is really lovely, being that when you get to name it, is the fact that you're acknowledging what is going on in the world. And I think naming it just reduces the whole of the burdens. Yeah, just naming it as which I think this might be from imposter syndrome, or into the fact that I've not done more of this. I think I need to show up more. I need to show up more kindness. I need to show a bit sincere. I need to show a bit more vulnerable compared to showing this both ways that I know it all. Yeah, I think it's amazing. It's amazing. So you emphasize self-awareness in leadership. How can leaders develop this skill while managing high pressure roles?
So self-awareness in high pressure roles is key. We have a saying, everywhere we go, there we are, right?
Yeah.
So everywhere I go, there I am. I take myself with me everywhere. What we think is true about that then is whether I'm leading a team of 25 people or if I'm sitting here on a podcast with you, everywhere I go, there I am. So what we think is that self-awareness really helps us understand who we are and what we're doing, so that then we get to make a decision. Do I like who I am? Do I like how I'm showing up? Does it align with who and how I want to be? And if not, what steps do I need to take? I think that feels so important in high pressure leadership situations, because those leadership situations require all of us, not part of us, not like just the good parts of us. It requires all of us. We like to think about a leadership like this, that things like inner critic voices, things like imposter syndrome, things like shame actually turn into a second job. They actually turn into a second job of protecting ourselves and hiding from those around us so that we don't get found out, right? That second job actually takes away from our primary role of leadership in whatever organization or group that we're in. So I think especially in high pressure, high profile leadership positions, being self-aware really is the key to giving our best, most intentional thinking and behavior and responses to that leadership role, not to the role, not to the sort of imaginary second job of hiding.
Being self-aware. Yeah, I think it's amazing that if you're aware of yourself, and it could actually make a whole lot of different of decision part-time. You could actually more like make others who you are leading to be self-aware, owing to you give them the space. And yeah, I think there's just with this energy that shows that one is self-aware while you are leading, while you are seeing what you see, and while you lead your teams, and they could actually perceive it, even if you didn't actually voice it, and you just more like living from that particular end. Yeah, give them
Yeah.
the effortless permission to live from that particular end. So yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing. Thank
That's
you so
great.
much for sharing. So looking back, what question or challenge has mostly shaped your leadership philosophy?
Yeah, honestly, I'm going to go back to the beginning. It's this question of what role do you play? So let me paint the picture a little bit. I actually called this coach. He's also a friend of mine. Well, he's my business partner now. He's my coaching partner.
Yeah.
We do this coaching practice together years ago. Like we're going on 10 years ago, long before our coaching practice was taken off. He was my first coach. And I called him. I was leading a team of people that at the time in my mind, I couldn't get them to do what I wanted them to do. At least that's what I thought, right? And I called him and I'm like, Chris, this group is awful. They're just not getting it. And Chris said to me calmly and gently, like a good friend, he said, Kurt, what part are you playing? And my
Mm.
initial response was like, hey, stop it. I just told you this team is terrible. And like, I didn't think anything. I just thought it was them. I had
Yeah.
no awareness that I played a part.
Mm.
And he said gently again, he said, okay, but what part are you playing? And honestly, that I ask myself that question once a week, easily once a
Mm.
week, maybe more some weeks. But that has shaped how I think about hard situations. That's shaped how I think about conflict, either interpersonal conflict or
Yeah.
organizational conflict. It's shaped how I see the world because I invite myself with that question. I invite myself to think about the things that I can control, which is me. There's a lot of I mean, there's so many things right now that we could point to other people as the problem, right? Whether it's division or conflict or whatever, like I could point to a lot of people and say it's your
Yeah.
fault, but really ultimately I can't change
Yeah.
anybody. I can only change how I show up. So that question of what part am I playing is, I mean, it's still one I go back to. I think that is the single most important challenge, invitation, question, whatever you want to call it. That's the most important thing for me.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing, Scott. Also, lastly, many leaders struggle with work-life balance and mental health. How do you help them integrate personal well-being with professional responsibility?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I love that you use the word integrate because I think that's the key, integration. I think many leaders believe that these are two separate parts of our lives, that we have a leadership part and we have a
Yeah.
life part. And those two stay separate. I think
Yeah.
integrating those into realizing that I am one self, you are one self.
Yeah.
I can't be broken into two pieces. My work impacts my life impacts my work. And frankly, in good ways, right? Like I think our organizations need all of us. And that includes all the parts of us that we're quick to kind of separate and keep. So I think anytime we can integrate those two parts and say, how is one impacting the other negatively? How can one impact the other positively? I think that's the key. Now, I think there is something, there is a conversation here about boundaries, about when I'm going to stop answering emails or when I'm going to stop answering the phone. Like those are important conversations, but I don't think that's often the core of work-life balance. I think often the core is, am I walking into my office authentically as Kurt?
Yeah.
Or am I walking in trying to put on a hat or a facade or a mask to be someone that I'm not supposed to, or that I'm not created to be, or
Yeah.
that I'm not capable of being? So I think that integration of saying, how do I show up fully me, particularly me, not keeping life and work apart, but integrate, I mean, your word, right? Integrating them
Yeah.
together as fully me.
Yeah. Amazing. This just speak volumes. So yeah, being true to yourself and being that a whole lot of people make reference to work-life balance sometimes is the fact that what their role demands and who they are out there is a two different thing, and that is
Yeah.
the easiest way to get burnout compared to even it,
Yeah.
because it seems at the end of the day, jobs don't sometimes does not actually more like make people weary, actually more like make people burn out, but usually owing to the
Yeah.
conflict between who they are and what they do. And yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I had a leader once. a mentor that I love who would say it like this. He would say, burnout and exhaustion are not about what we do, right? There's a lot of people that do a lot of work and never burn out. It's
Yeah,
about alignment with who we want to be, right? I also know a lot of people that don't do a lot of work at all and
that's
burn
the
out.
border.
Yeah. So I actually don't think it's about like
Yeah,
workload at all. I think it's all about integrating authentically.
yeah, integrating authentically. Yeah, thank you so much, Scott. So, Scott, for my audience who would love to reach out to you, connect with you either for your coaching section or for all that different business too, how can they reach out to you and where's the best platform?
Yep. So the best ways are our website. Our website is brimstonecoachinggroup.com. And I don't talk to a lot of people on continental Africa, but brimstone, we like to say this, that brimstone is a species of butterfly. And butterflies are the only living creatures that transform, during
Yeah.
their lifetime. And the brimstone butterfly is native to Africa. So
Hmm.
we talk to a lot of people here in America, and they're like, what the heck is brimstone? Our logo is a butterfly, and we always have to say, you'll never see a brimstone butterfly here in America. I've never talked to somebody who might actually get to see a brimstone butterfly. So brimstone is a butterfly
Yeah.
native to Africa. So yeah, the website's the best way. There's all sorts of ways on there to connect with us. We offer free inquiry calls. If a listener is hearing this and they're thinking, man, I'd love to see if Brimstone can help with what they're navigating or what they're working through, we would love to talk free of charge before we set anything up formally, just to see, hey, are we a good fit for one another? We also have
Yeah.
a book out. You'll see on our website, we have a book out called Live Fully, Lead Authentically.
Yeah. Search from that last end of it too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So listeners can find that on our website as well.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Scott. And definitely the link to your website to be added to the show notes for my audience to easily reach out. Yeah, this has really been amazing conversations, and it just reminds us that leadership doesn't have to follow doesn't have to follow hollows or exhausting, but through reflection, self-awareness and authentic practice, our leaders can move beyond pressure and performance to thrive in both work. It's really a pleasure having you on the show.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It's been great.